You said, hello, 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 good afternoon, and welcome to a Friday Live with Debbie. And you tell us where you're joining us live from, and we will be so glad to welcome you this afternoon. Another wonderful day to learn, another wonderful day to become, another wonderful day to, just learn. Learning is something that I love to do. Learning is something that I'm always happy to do. I love growing, and I know that for anyone who is live on this stream, thank you, welcome, Ngozi. Hello, mamas from the desert. Oh, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. I'm sure it's really hot down there, and I hope you're having a refreshing time in the AC, and I hope you're cooling off because I can imagine how hot it is in the desert right now. Even the UK where we are, there's a bit of sunshine. Thank you for joining us live. We don't take your time for granted. This webinar, I plan to run this webinar for just 1 hour, and I will just go straight to the point. We'll just give it a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining us. And yes, it's good to have you on the stream. Today's topic, as I'm going to be sharing my screen in the next couple of seconds, is unmute yourself, reclaiming your voice and your energy. A little bit about myself before I go on, as you're welcome again. Or a little bit about myself as I go on. It's just, it's my story, something I like to tell. Being a stay-at-home mom and, losing yourself. Hey, welcome, Dayo. And thank you for having me talk to you also. Thank you, and you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome, Dayo. It's really good to have you on live stream. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your courage to join me once again. I don't take your time for granted. Like I was saying, I said I'll try not to take. I'm going to do this webinar for just 1 hour. Not going on and on and on and on. And yes, so I was talking about myself and why I do the things that I love to do. Being a stay-at-home mom and losing myself in motherhood. Just being there for everyone. The usual story. Being there for everyone, never finding time for yourself, never finding time for the things that matter to you, the things that make you grow. And then you suddenly wake up one day and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, where's this girl again? Where's Debbie? You're looking for yourself. Time has gone, and then you feel like you feel that time has gone and you haven't actually done anything. But raising children is an honor. You're not doing nothing. Raising children is such an honor, and I don't take that for granted. I don't take the fact that I've been home with my kids for granted, and I also don't want you to take that time for granted, because that time you will never get back. But the values, the memories, the things that you have created with your children cannot be underestimated. Everything that you do is for a purpose. Everything that you do is in purpose. You're not out of purpose just because you're not out there in the corporate world. You're still in purpose. So when I realized that I had lost myself, I had lost my voice, especially, and with everything that was going on, and I found out that I had just lost myself. And as talking to other moms and every people feeling small just because you're with the family, and how to help women. I decided to have this, how do I help women overcome that feeling of invisibility, like I don't matter, I'm second place, I'm second thought. Sometimes even in the way we serve our family, you serve the husband really nice, you try to decorate the plate, and then you serve your children really nice, and then when it's time for you to eat, you find yourself eating leftovers. How is it that we have come to put ourselves at the back burner? How is it that we've come to bring I mean hide who we are just because we are taking care of children? And that really triggered a response in me. I love to help people. It's just something that I know that I'm born for. I love to be with people. I love to help people. I love to leave people with the value that I believe in. I love that when you see me or when you speak to me, that your life will be better off than just because we spoke. So I was, that's where the birth of this discovery, your discovery coach came, because it's easy to just, go through life and, you're asking yourself, what exactly am I doing? And when the kids are growing, you're so in it that you don't even realize that you can actually just start something for yourself and with yourself. You're in it, you're right, like submerged in it, and then time goes and then years go, and then you find out that, what have I really done? So it's not the staying at home with the children that is actually the issue. It's the fact that, time goes, you don't reclaim the time, you don't get back that time back, you don't grow in the time that your children are growing. And that's where the problem is. The problem is not the staying with the children. Staying with the children is divine purpose. It's something that God is happy about. It's something that we are we should do, whether we are working or not, because you brought them to this world. You are going to nurture them, you're going to bring them up and all that. So I'll just go on, and why this is urgent and important. Every time you keep quiet, you make an expensive decision. Your silence is too expensive. Every time you keep quiet, every time you put yourself in the back burner, every time you don't rise and speak about even your needs. You have your spouse. You don't speak about your needs. You don't speak about your need to grow. You don't speak about your need for um your need for him to validate your emotions. You don't speak about how you feel. And it's easy for us because sometimes we feel like, talking about ourselves or talking about our needs is being selfish. So you keep on putting things off. Every time we do that, every time we keep quiet, our silence is too expensive. There's a price to pay for silence. In silence, people don't know. I tell my kids something, for instance, I say to them, I would rather you tell me what is wrong with you, because I mean, at 7, I firmly believe that you should be able to tell me how you feel. I feel like you might not be able to understand how you feel in the totality, but this, okay, mommy, I'm upset because I don't want to leave the park, and you have asked me to leave the park. I said, but you get more results when you speak about your feelings, when you speak about what you want with your spouse, with your children, when you don't leave your emotions as so somebody has to guess how you feel. And then you're leaving your feelings or your needs to chance, because my interpretation of what you need may be different from what is actually, you're the one wearing the shoes, you know where it pinches. So every time you keep quiet, that is a very expensive stance to take. Every time you're leaving your people to second guess. Oh, does she want white shoes or does she want black? So like I was saying, I tell my kids, just if you say I am hungry and that's why I'm upset, I will go into the kitchen straight. But when you whine, it's hard for me to know, are you hungry or are you not? So now she's learning. So last week or 2 weeks ago, she was coming back from school and she loves to go to the park on our way back from school. Mom is always, I'm not always keen on it, because as we know in the UK, sometimes the weather is cold, sometimes the weather is cold. But the day she told me, she said, Mommy, the reason I like to go to the park on Fridays after school is that sometimes in school they make us sit so much. And I feel like playing after school helps me to decongest. I will be a bad mother or an unreasonable mother to say, no, you can't go to the park, after I have heard a 7-year-old succinctly spoken about her feelings. So in the minute she just told me, said, Mommy, I like to go to the park because I feel, and in school, yes, everything is regimented. They let you pay for 30 minutes or 1 hour, and then they say, sit down, stand up. So they're like, they're suppressing their emotions, they are suppressing their feelings. They can't really speak to their teacher except they raise their hand, except they speak up and they say okay, and then the teacher has to give them permission to talk. So they are very regimented. And my daughter is very systematic, very systematic. So she's a stickler for rules, she's a stickler for keeping the rules. So when she comes out, she doesn't want to be that's suppressed. She doesn't want to be that regimented. So she just wants to express. She wants to be in the park. And if you see her in the park, you're like, oh, it's like they've released her into the wild. She's happy. She's climbing the swings, but she spoke. But if she's before then, she would leave school and she's throwing a tantrum. She sat on the floor. She's telling me she doesn't want to go home. She's making a scene. Obviously, I'm not moved by that. I'm actually annoyed by that. And I'm more likely to say a big no to her tantrums as opposed to her telling me what her feelings are. So every time you keep silent and every time you don't speak about how you feel or what you need, it's too expensive. So my interpretation to her tantrums could come across as she's just being difficult, or she's just being naughty, or she's hungry. So I could also interpret her tantrums as she being hungry and then me rushing home to go and cook for her. I said, no, we're not going to the park, we're going home. I feel like you're throwing a tantrum because you're hungry. She subjects her own interpretation. I mean, she'll be subject, whatever she wants is subject to my own interpretation, and it may not meet her needs. So there's an urgency. What's that thing making you feel small? What's that thing making you feel unheard in your family? What's that thing making you feel unheard with your spouse, even with your children? What's that thing making you feel, you just need to speak about it, but every time you want to speak about it, you're like, doesn't matter. And like I was saying on Saturday, I say sometimes we don't speak up because we're like, our voice doesn't matter. And I say, you matter. Your voice matters. Your voice actually matters. So when you speak up, and that's why I like the idea of when people are doing birthdays. If you're very close to me, I'll ask you, what do you want? The idea of giving somebody what you think the person wants, for me, especially if you're close to me, I'm like, you're giving me things that I'm going to end up giving it to another person, because I don't even use this type of things. And that's my own, principle. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying, if you're close to me, I'll prefer to ask you what you need or what you want at that time, so that I'm meeting a need as opposed to just giving you what I think you should like. I might even give you what I like, but what I like is not what you like. So don't keep quiet. There's an urgency for you to speak up. There's an urgency for you to unmute yourself. There's an urgency and an importance for you to rise and to speak. And that's talking about, on the emotion side. Even on the other side, rising to speak. Remember what I said on Saturday? I said, for every time you rise, you give your children the permission to rise. So for every time you speak up, for every time you speak up, you're not suppressing. You're not saying, oh, all these people know better than me. All these people know better than me. All these people are, are more knowledgeable than me. It might be in PTA meetings. It might be in the school gates. It might be anything. It might be a gathering of, friends. You need to speak because your silence will be too expensive. So people will just interpret. You leave yourself to random interpretations when you don't speak up. You leave yourself to random interpretation. So anybody can interpret silence is a message. It can mean anything too. So you keeping quiet can mean, oh, she's okay with it. Or another person keeping quiet can mean different things. So we're going to go on. Why this matters. A silenced woman isn't just unheard. She's unseen, she's unfelt, and slowly undone. So it's not just about I need to keep quiet. Whenever you don't speak up and whenever you don't talk, whenever you are silenced, whenever you suppress your emotions, you suppress what is inside of you that needs to be expressed. For instance, you may be called to write books. You may have a very great way with words. And when you write, people are come alive. People relate to what you write. It might not even be we're not talking about writing to the whole world. There's a people you are called to. There's a place you are called to. There's a community of women you may be called to. Not everybody listening to me will find what I'm saying very useful. But does that mean I should keep quiet because maybe other people don't find it useful? No. There are women who will find this useful and find their liberation in what I am saying. So for every time I am silenced, I'm just unheard, unseen, unfelt, and undone. Because at the end of everything, I start to wonder where my voice went. I start to see other people rise. I start to see other people being listened to. And I'm just feeling small in a corner of the world. And I'm wondering, what happened to me? Remember when you were a child and we were going to school this morning. I'll just use this as an example. We were going to school this morning and it was very chilly, even though it's summer. It was very chilly. And then my daughter was saying things like, the sun is still sleeping. And then she now said, oh no, maybe he's not sleeping, maybe he's having breakfast. And then from maybe he's having breakfast, then the sun started shining a bit. And she's like, oh, he has finally opened his window a bit. And I was fascinated by her thoughts. And it's easy for me to say, let's just get to school. We're in a hurry. What kind of conversation is that? But I have also learned that allowing my children have this vivid imagination is what keeps their brain, creative. They are having creative imagination. In their imagination, they can be in Nigeria 1 minute and in America the next. There's nothing that is impossible in their imagination. I remember when you were a child and you had those imaginations, how you thought you could change the world, how you could give and then the other set of children, she was with me. She likes to hold my hand. The other one likes to run with her friends. The other set of children now gave each other power. So this one had elemental power. This one had something power. This one had, so they were saving the world, or they were trying to, I don't know what they were doing, but they were just playing on their way to school. And I was so enamored by, the way they were talking, the way their thought process, their thought patterns and everything. I was so enamored by it. I was so, I just love to hear how they talk. But you remember when you were a child and, you used to have those kind of wild imaginations and how you were shut down? Just hurry up, let's go. And then you were shut down. And then slowly you lose all that imagination. Slowly you lose all that, that anything is possible. There's no limitation. And that's where it starts. And then you become a mom and then you're still quiet. You grow up and then you're still quiet. You still don't understand that you have so much to give in your world. And that's just being slowly undone. That's why you hear people saying, I feel unfulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled. I mean, they've lived, but they've survived, but they haven't thrived. They haven't blossomed. So don't get undone. There's a message you have on the inside of you. There's a message that your voice carries. It might be 10 people, it might be 20 people, it might be 100, it might be thousands, but your voice matters. So don't let it die in silence. Silence is too expensive. The emotional, physical, and spiritual cost, there's an emotional, physical, and spiritual cost of losing your voice. So when you don't speak up, there's an emotional cost. When you don't speak up, there's a physical cost. When you don't speak up, there's a spiritual cost. Because the world belongs to the bold and the loud. There's some people that don't even have as much as as much knowledge, as much capacity as you carry. For instance, you may bake so beautifully well, or you may cook and everybody licks their finger. When you silence that, that talent, like you can, there's this cousin I had when I was growing up. Oh my God. When she cooks for me, I lick my fingers. She cooks so well. She cooks so well. I used to look forward to her cooking. There's some of you that are like that, but you stay silent. It's only my husband that likes my food. It's only my children that like my food. Oh, okay, when friends come. It's the silence that makes you that would keep you to think that, oh, you can't make a business out of it. There's an emotional cost. There's a physical cost. There's a cost that comes when we don't, we don't speak up, we don't rise with the gifts that are inside of us. And then when we keep quiet, or when we keep silent, it can be linked to fatigue, low energy, and disconnection. I'll give you an example. You're doing something that you love. How do you feel on the inside? You're doing something that, oh my God, this thing gives me sparkles, it gives me energy. Hey, hello, it's your phone. Thank you for joining. For those who are joining, when I started, I was just lost in my yeah. Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Joy, for joining. I'm really grateful, and I'm welcome. Yes, let me continue. Thank you. So you're excited about helping young people, for instance, or you're excited about talking to teenagers, or you're excited about um helping people, when you're excited about baking. When you bake, when you're in the kitchen, your everything about you comes alive. But when you're not doing anything that actually brings fulfillment to you, you find out that you're constantly tired. So you're going to that job, for instance, you're already looking forward to Friday. I was talking last weekend after, our free webinar last week Friday. Last week Saturday. And I said, every time when you're in a job and you're always looking forward to TGIF, is there not something wrong? Forever seeking escape, forever seeking the weekend. You're not excited about life. You're just excited about the weekend. Oh, when is the next escape? Let me escape for 2 days. Our desire is not to create a life that we need to escape from. It's to create a life that every day of it, we are living, we are thriving, we are blossoming. It's something we enjoy. It's something that brings us joy. It's something that brings us fulfillment. And when we're not doing that, we are fatigued all the time. We feel our energy is so low. Like now I'm talking, and I know that if you give me another class and another class and another class and another class, I can go on and forget I haven't had breakfast. But the day that I'm not doing anything that, I'm not speaking up, because I love speaking and I've recognized that, I just feel, I'm just tired. Your silence is very, very, very costly. It can lead to disconnection. You disconnect from even the children that you are at home with. You disconnect even with your husband, because there's no bubbling of joy on the inside of you. You don't want to be there. So this matters a lot. How women lose their voice and their energy. Cultural conditioning. Women are not supposed to be heard. They're just supposed to be seen. I know they say it's for children. And I ask, who said that? I know even some cultures just sidetrack women. The woman's voice is not important. So she's just there to be nice, to be quiet, to be useful, to just serve the man, to serve food, to serve the children, to give birth to 15 children. Those days they used to give birth to a lot of children. So you had your mom came from, hello Loveth, hello Peace, thank you for joining. Your mom, came from that type of background where, there are 12 of them, and all the women, in fact, there was even a time, where I come from in Nigeria, that there was a time women were not, maybe long ago, women were not allowed to go to school. So if a man had female children and male children, there was more tendency to send a boy child to school as opposed to a girl child. Or things like, you need to take care of your brother, you need to take care of the house, you need to take care of the family, you need to do this, you need to do that. So it was so family oriented, social conditioning. So even though, we have gone a long way from that, and that doesn't necessarily happen all the time, but there's still this silent conditioning that tells you that your place is at the back. So you see, not as many women rise in the place of leadership, in the place of, in fact, was it not in Nigeria where a woman came to, we had a president, nominee issue. What's her name again? I remember her name. And how many people voted for her? Even the women in the country didn't vote for her. woman president in Nigeria. How is that going to happen? It's funny. These things make us chuckle. But there's a silent conditioning that tells women that, okay, your place is in the kitchen. I remember when I was growing up personally, I remember my own story when my mom would say, you feel like go and read PhD. If you like, go and get all the book in the world. Your place is in the kitchen. As much as that sounds, funny, but you can imagine hearing that for all my, growing up days. So even though I didn't necessarily believe it, but it kind of became my story until I arose. Because obviously my place was always in the kitchen. I was forever cooking, forever taking care of everyone. So she must have been told by her own mother or her own, caregiver. And then it goes down, and then it trickles down. And then she's telling me that my own place is in the kitchen. And that's what she understood. So women empowerment is actually a real thing. Women had to fight to be seen. They had to fight to vote. Cultural conditioning is something that is so real, so subtle, maybe more subtle in our times with all the, knowledge that goes on and all the education that happens. But there's just this silent thing that says, you need to be nice, you need to be quiet, and you need to be useful. Another thing is giving yourself as a matter in motherhood martyrdom. Always giving, never receiving. I remember one time my friends and I said, we didn't really do it though, but we said, why don't we have a rota where every week somebody takes the child, all these children, and then you go and rest. Such a nice, lovely thought, but find a system to rest. Find a system to tell your children, you also have needs that need to be taken care of. I have a very good friend. He's a man who on Fridays, he says that's the day his wife doesn't do anything. So he has 2 boys, and he tells his boys, he makes his boys take care of his wife. He says, you're going to cook, you're going to clean, we are going to cook, we're going to clean, we're going to do everything. And that's a man that understands that it is very easy for a woman to give herself completely and forget about herself. That's the kind of partner, that supports. And I know not many women have that type of support. But you can actually ask. Have you asked and you didn't get? It's possible to ask and get. If that's what you want. Say there is a day, on Sundays, I only have one major meal. Every other thing, everybody sorts themselves out. I'm not going to, Sunday is my day to shut down, to recalibrate, to get my energy back. Go and meet your dad. If he wants to buy you pizza, I'm fine with it. If that's what's going to be for dinner, I'm fine with it. But you're not going to see me in the evening making dinner for you on a Sunday evening. Always giving, never receiving. We need to be careful of that, to continue to stretch ourselves in ways that deplete us. Because the honest truth is that if you see 2 women who are maybe in their 50s, see the one that has not, there's a way stress comes on us. There's a way stress stretches us and ages us. So we need to be very careful. We need to learn to pause. We need to learn to, ask for what we want. Don't matter yourself, because then you're also now passing that same conditioning to your children. And then you bring up boys who will think it's the woman's job to just do everything in the house. And then the girl thinks it's my job to do everything in the house. Let's change the narrative. Let's change this story. You might be here and saying, oh, but I live alone. I'm a single mom. Teach your children. I started teaching my children very early that mommy has need for rest. So yesterday, my daughter came into the living room and she said, Mommy, would you like a few minutes by yourself? And I was like, oh, that would be nice. So she took her younger sister and then they went to the garden to play. I started teaching them. At first, when I used to teach them, they don't understand because every time they want to climb my body, and it's okay, I like it. But obviously, I need rest. So now it's beginning to enter into her head that there's a time for rest. So she said, after a while, she now came and she said, I think you stayed enough alone. Oh yeah, we're going to stay with you now. And then I started laughing because she's right. She knows what she wants. And I'm also teaching her that she should be bold to ask for what she wants. So, mommy, I want to go to the park. You tell your reasons for going to the park. There's no way I can deny it, honestly. When I hear a 7-year-old, being upright with how they feel, the energy drain of constantly suppressing your truth. So sometimes you want to appear as the good mom. I've got it all. You don't want to speak negatively about how you feel. You don't want to, you're feeling sad. There's this constant nagging feeling of sadness, but you don't want to accept it. You're feeling sad. You're feeling dissatisfied. But you feel like if you say you're being dissatisfied, they will say that you're not grateful. They will say that you're not grateful. So that's why you're feeling dissatisfied. But you're feeling dissatisfied. You keep suppressing your feelings, but you're not happy. You put up an appearance of happiness, but you're not happy. Keeping on, when one keeps on suppressing and unsuppressing and suppressing how it is for them on the inside, there's a danger. One day there will be an explosion. You hear somebody just wakes up one morning and I need a divorce. I don't think it was all of a sudden. I think the unhappiness had been there for years. I think the unhappiness has been there, and the ignoring of how you feel has been there for years. And then one day you can't take it anymore. And then you just say, or you're just disconnected. You just become suddenly there's no suddenly, you become suddenly disconnected. And that's how you begin to lose voice and energy. It becomes a pattern, and a pattern becomes a habit. And time goes, and then your brain also takes it as this is us. So you start to say things like, this is how I am. You start to program your brain. You start to program yourself that you don't need more. You keep yourself small to be accepted. You keep yourself invisible to remain in spaces that are not serving. And then you start to ask yourself, where did I lose it? The bad thing about this thing is that when time passes, it doesn't even tell you, I'm passing. Are you going to come? Are you going to? It's just your brain acclimatizes to what you feed it. It starts to live it as your own truth. You see some people, they're always agitated, they're always scared, they're always, they live in survival. There's an imprint in their brain that just tells them maybe something traumatic had happened to them in their past, or something traumatic had happened to them as they were growing up, or things like that. So they grew up living in survival mode, flight or freeze, constantly. A leaf rustles in the tree, they've jumped. The brain doesn't know calm. The brain doesn't understand what calm is. So when they start going to therapy, and then they start to go into, changing their programming and, dealing with the root cause of all these things, the brain is asking, I don't understand. This is not us now. We are survival people. We fly, we freeze. So it starts to fight you. And that's the thing. So be careful how you program yourself, how the things that you accept as normal. The things that you accept as normal. So you say things like, it's just me. No, it's not. Everything and anyone can be improved on. If I'm doing these webinars every Friday, for instance, and next year I'm still doing it the way I'm doing it, and there's no depth, there's no improvement, then I'm not doing well. Every human being has a capacity to improve. So there's no, this is how I am. There's no default. There's no default. The person who will thrive is the person who keeps learning, who keeps, giving himself to knowledge, or giving herself to knowledge, giving herself to self-improvement, giving herself to, self-leadership. saying that things can be done better. I can be better than I am now. I can rise from what I am now. So when you keep suppressing and suppressing and suppressing and you accept it, then your brain now starts to take it as this is who we are. We're not going to change. We're not going to, we're not going to don't rattle us. So you start to stay safe, but you're staying safe in sadness, and you're staying safe in your default becomes an unfulfilled state. So it's very dangerous. It is very dangerous. That's a very dangerous state to stay. What are the signs that you have been muted? You struggle to say no. Everything that everybody wants, they ask of you, and then you struggle to say no. Somebody wanted to talk to me on a few days ago in the morning, and I was very proud of myself. Normally, I would have said, okay, let's have this conversation. But I said, no, I can't have this conversation now. This is my time for XYZ, and I need to finish what I'm doing. She could have potentially become a client. She could have potentially, brought business for me. But at that time, I needed to finish a couple of things I needed to concentrate on a couple of things that I set out to do before 7. And I needed to just say no. Saying no. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain yourself. Over-explaining. It's a complete sentence. It's a complete sentence. There says, how can we reprogram? You can only reprogram by it does. So I was talking to somebody this afternoon, and the person was saying how if so I was telling let me try and summarize what I was saying. So I was saying, for instance, you've been in a state of survival, state of flight and freeze for 30 years, for 40 years, depends on how old you are, and then you think that one webinar can solve it. It doesn't work that way. These things that you have been there for years. They have manifested over the years. So joining a program, for instance, like Becoming Her, my 5-week launch plan, will help. Joining a learning system, joining a mind programming system will help, because it doesn't just come and one thing changes it. It's a battle. There's a book I used to read when I was a teenager, and it was like the battle for the mind. And it's a real thing. There was a serious battle for the mind. Everything is battling for your attention. So finding yourself in the right systems, in the right growth systems, in the right programs, in the right environment helps. You can't undermine learning and relearning. You can't undermine it. It's very important. You can't undermine reading books. You can't undermine removing yourself from systems, from places. Some people just want to talk to you, and all they want to talk to you is about bad news. You don't have any business in that kind of congregation. You remove yourself from it. So you become intentional and deliberate to remove yourself from things that cannot serve you. So I hope I've answered your question there. I'll go on. You apologize for taking up space. And it's such a Nigerian thing. Sorry, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I started scratching that from my dictionary. You don't have to respond to my messages now. Sorry to bother. What are you sorry about? One day my daughter asked me, what are we sorry about for real? Because I think they started learning the sorry the sorry thing from me. And then I said, no, I can't pass this on to my children. You want to talk to somebody and then you say you just started with sorry. Please, exactly what are you sorry about? Sorry is actually you're sorry for something that is your fault. So why are you constantly thinking that something is your fault? Why are you constantly thinking that something is your fault? Sorry is not random. Sorry is that I did something and I'm trying to apologize for it. So you apologize. You want to talk to your husband, you say, sorry, I know you're busy. Why are you sorry? What's the sorry for? What exactly are you sorry about? You apologize for just being. You're somebody's friend. You cannot ask for help. You are sorry for asking for help. Sorry to bother you. It's a sign that you have been muted. It's a sign that you have closed, you don't, you in your own head, you don't deserve the right to exist. You don't deserve it. So you say, you ask for help, and it's okay for them to also tell you no. But when they tell you no, you start to feel bad about it. And then you're sorry that you even bothered. So you're constantly sorry in between being sorry and not sorry. No. You can unmute yourself. You can unmute, you can join our community at the end of this program. I mean, at the end of this webinar, I will be talking about the 5-week launch plan. You can join our community. You can't remember what gives you joy. Joy seems like a faraway land. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, joy doesn't seem to exist. I'm not talking of Joy Dennis here. Sorry. Joy. Oh, she actually said, she said, I was once there, even though my name is Joy, I couldn't remember what it is that brings me joy. It happens to even the best of us. It happens to people. It's more common than you think. Constantly questioning your life. First, sometimes I'm like, I'm questioning my life decisions right now. Fine, you forget what brings you joy. So you are in the house, in fact, the day that I knew that, my own life had to change, because I'm not preaching to you from a place of perfection. I'm not speaking to you from a place of perfection. Is my daughter walks up to me and says, "Today, mommy, are you happy?" I said, "What do you mean by today are you happy?" She said, "No, sometimes you look sad, sometimes you look melancholy," and she didn't use the word melancholy. Sometimes you look down. So I just wanted to know, is today a happy day for you? Very good. I said, wow, see finish. But she wasn't telling a lie. And I'm glad I also gave my children the ability to speak to me about how they feel. I'm glad I gave my children the ability to speak to me about what they experience, what they experience me, what the experience of me. Because sometimes you look at yourself in the mirror and you cannot judge yourself by yourself. Kids are mirrors, and they are there to tell you whether you're doing a good job or not. Don't shut them up. When my daughter said, "So is today a happy day?" I said, "What do you mean by is today a happy day? I don't get it." And I realized I had forgotten what it was that brought me joy. It's such a common feeling. And I said, "No, Debbie, enough is enough. These are the things that bring us joy." I love helping people. I love helping people. I love what I do now. It gives me so much joy to help another woman find her voice, rediscover herself, to bring her out of that state of despondency. I have been there. Like we say, we don't speak from a place of perfection. We speak from a place because we have experienced these things. And then I started to even ask myself, I started to, go back to my own childhood. The shouting, the yelling, the apparent chaos in the house, was it from a mom who was dissatisfied with life? Who could not find joy in life? These things trickle down. They trickle down. And that's why we need to rise as moms. Yes, we are juggling a lot. Yes, we have so much to do. Yes, we have mental work overload. But there's a system that can help you to actually carry these things gracefully. We're not saying that you're not going to be tired, but you can teach the people around you also to respect boundaries. You can teach these things. You can tell the kids, go outside and play. I need 5 minutes. But we're so afraid to tell our children to give us 5 minutes. Why? The silence. The comfort in silence. Silence becomes so comfortable, yet expensive. You begin to feel invisible, even in your own home. So it feels like every other person is thriving in the home apart from you. You know, your husband is doing well, the resentment builds because he just got a promotion from work. Check it out now. Me and him were even classmates in school. It's not just 1 year he used to senior me. It's not just, in fact, we were born the same year. He is thriving. Every day we go out. Everybody calls him, an honorary title. Me, I'm just the wife of XYZ. And then the resentment builds quietly. Then the romance dies. The friction starts to happen. You're not seeing yourself even as a team anymore. You're seeing it as, I'm competing against my own husband. And then you start to feel invisible. After all, okay, yes, he's the one earning, he's the one bringing the money, blah, blah, blah. Even in your own home. So we know we need to deal with these things. If these are the signs that you're experiencing, we need to deal with these things. We need to be upfront about it and deal with it. The impact on our children. I would not go anywhere without talking about the impact on our children. Children mirror what they see. As I've said before, kids are mirror. So it's not just what we say to them, it's not what we say to them, it's what we are. A mother who silences herself teaches her children to do the same. So they need to speak up. They need to speak up. They need to speak up. They need to actually teach your children even to voice their own feelings, voice what they want is very important. Rediscovery is equals to a new generational script. You see some people, you've met them, they're constantly in avoidance state. They're constantly avoiding, they can't have deep conversations with them. It feels like you're always they're kind of boxed in, very defensive. You can't reach them who they are. It's just really upbringing, or there's a script that they are following. We can change that script. We can have people who can take no for an answer, who can not throw a tantrum. You go on the internet, sometimes the internet is so scary. Somebody just puts a little comment and then the next day everybody starts to insult. And I'm wondering, how did we get here? How did we land here? What is exactly the big deal about the banter, the stress, the everything? It just feels it's such a chaotic world. Kindness is, random. I know there are very good people out there, don't get me wrong. I know it's not everybody who insults, but it feels like the ones who insult are the loudest on social media, and it just becomes so scary. But every time a woman rises, every time a man rises, every time we rise and we rediscover who we are, we're writing a new generational script. And that's very important. Silence is often misconstrued as permission. I was trying to find a quote on silence so that I can bring it here. But this one, it came into my spirit, like I just couldn't deny it. Like I said in the beginning, every time you are silent, you make yourself open to different interpretations. So like I said in the beginning, I said I could have, when my daughter could not tell me why she wanted to go to the park after school, and she started throwing a tantrum. Personally, I interpreted that tantrum as she's hungry, so I won't take a tantruming child to the park. I'm like, no, it doesn't make any sense. I'm going to take her to home to go and feed her. But when she finally told me how she feels about being, constricted in school, regimented, she didn't use all this big English. She told me in a 7-year-old vocabulary. And then she told me how she feels, so stressed in school, so put together. So when she wants to go to the park to play it out, and play is the language of a child. When she decided to, tell me how she feels, there was no way I could deny her going to the park. So she got what she wanted because she was able to, articulate what she wanted, how she felt about being in school all day and having only 32, because sometimes she does clubs during break. So her break time, her full break time, she doesn't get. Yeah, they have 15 minutes movement break in school. But when she made me understand how she feels about her day being so regimented and she just wanted to be free and play, I could not misconstrue her silence anymore. I had to give her the permission to do what she needed to do. So I had to make adjustments in my schedule, in how I planned my Fridays, because we now made after school Fridays after school. We now made it, our park tradition with her friends, and I had to readjust, not she having to readjust, because she spoke up. She said what she wanted. So when you don't speak up, your silence is often misconstrued. People can interpret anything. You might be unhappy because you're feeling dissatisfied, but they will just decide to go and buy you chocolate. Is it chocolate that was your problem? No. Or you may be silent, you may be upset about the way the house is run, and you want, more input from other members of the family. But no, they decided that no, to do something else. So speaking up is very important. It's very, very important. What it means to unmute her, unmute yourself. Rediscovering your inner voice. What's that thing that lights you up? What's that thing you were born for? What's that thing that causes you to, be alive? Speaking truth without guilt. I feel this way when you do this and that. Without feeling bad, without feeling that, you need to please the whole world. Yes, especially our family members. But I can't please you all the time. I can't. I have to learn to say no to things that I can't do at the time you want me to do it without guilt. And it was, you hear things like, after all, what are you doing with your time? I remember one time I warned somebody very close to me, you'll never, ever, ever make that statement to me again. In fact, then I didn't even know I was going to be a coach. I just had my first child. And then, all this family, one of them called me, and then he says, what do you even do with your time, sir? If you say I stay at home, mom, all you do is to watch TV all day. Number one, I'm not a TV person. I've never been. So it's not something that appeals to me. I sleep off watching TV. So I'm like, what's the point? And I said, you will never ever talk to me that way again. That one, I remember I wasn't silent, because no. Speak up without feeling guilty. Say no without feeling guilty. Protect your energy. Mind your circles. Mind the things you listen to. Mind the news that you hear. Mind the kind of people that come into your DM telling you XYZ. You start to change your circle. You start to change, your the group of women you associate with. You join communities that grow you. You create emotional freedom. So I'm not saying you're going to be unkind, or you're going to, just be brash about how you speak. No, we're not saying to the extreme. But there's an emotional freedom that comes from, your voice being heard. You're speaking up. So the person also can explain to you that, oh, I think I see that you're feeling this way, but I feel that this is what I was doing. This is not, I know you feel this way, but this is not what I was doing. And then you can actually, reach a consensus. Not one person is dying and one person is assuming. No, that's not how you grow. There's an emotional freedom that comes with saying this friendship doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to leave this friendship. You're not tied to anyone. There's an emotional freedom that comes from it. Creating emotional freedom is very important. Not tying yourself to things that are constantly draining you is very important. It's important that we start to do these things. So we're going to talk about 3 power shifts, and then we'll start to round up. Permission. 3 power shifts. 3 power shifts to reclaim energy and voice. 3 power shifts to reclaim energy and voice. Give yourself the right to exist fully, not half, fully. permission. You see, this permission, we're not waiting for anybody to give us permission. No. The permission comes from you first. You will give yourself the right to exist fully. You will start to tell yourself, my voice matters. You will start to tell yourself, I will rise and I will shine. You see that when you go for PTA meeting, you sit at the back. You start to sit in the front and give your own opinion, even if your opinion is not popular opinion. So many people don't even have half the wisdom that you have, yet they are loud and they are confident. You will give yourself the permission, because even me sitting down here, I can't give you that permission. The permission comes from you. You need a mindset shift, a mindset renewing. You will give yourself the permission. You owe it to yourself. You think of yourself as worth listening to, so you owe it to yourself to give yourself the right to exist. Presence. You will stop outsourcing your attention. You're not waiting for everybody to make you happy. You're not even waiting for your husband to make you happy. You're not. I'll give you a short story. I remember those days, my dad is late now, about those days when my dad and my mom have a misunderstanding. My mom would, go off into the bathroom. Everywhere she's going, she's singing. There's this particular song she sings, like she's singing it loud on top of her voice, as if there's nobody in this life that would make me unhappy. And it will be biting. Because you're like, why is this woman singing and laughing? I think she was just trying to do number 2. Stop outsourcing her attention. She would sing, not today, Satan. Nobody's stealing my joy. Not today. Not today. So you owe it to yourself to find what gives you joy and to do it and to live it. To find what brings you fulfillment. To stop outsourcing your attention. To return to yourself. Who were you before you started having kids? Who were you before, you started staying in the back burner? Who were you born to be? Who were you created to be? What were you meant to fulfill? And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be something so massive. It might be selling cakes, baking cakes. It might be sewing. You sew so well, you have design ideas in your head, but they are seated latent because you say, who will take you seriously? You have some ideas in your mind that if you write so beautifully, but the only thing you end up writing every day is a shopping list. No, you're going to rise and stop outsourcing your attention. You're going to rise and return to yourself. Ask yourself, what are those things that make you tick? And then power. You choose truth over comfort, clarity over chaos. So sometimes it's easy to just, not ruffle the boat. We're all here. We're all trying to be happy. We're all trying to, I don't want this house to be peaceful. Let me just stay home with these children. It's okay. Okay. There's a semblance of comfort, but really there's chaos. You're so chaotic inside because you feel so unfulfilled. So you don't want to rise and say, okay, let me just go back and, just that PhD or that master's or whatever it is, even the BSc or whatever it is that you had dropped just because you became pregnant for your first child. Just, it's okay. It's not okay. If you tell yourself the truth that it's not okay, it is not okay. Because there's a woman inside of you yearning to come forth. There's a woman inside of you yearning to be, to rise. When, like I said, I love reading from the Bible. When Deborah arose, there's a woman in you waiting to arise. Are you going to keep on shutting her down and saying she doesn't matter? Are you going to keep on shutting her down and saying that, choosing the comfort, comfort is such a subtle thing. It's such a subtle thing. But at the end of the day, there's something comfort does, brings so much unfulfillment. It's expensive at the end of the day. It's expensive because you lose the essence of who you are. And the more you stay in it, the deeper you are in it, the harder it is to come out. And then you start to live it as your truth. But that's not your truth. You were created for much more. You were created to rise. You were created to rise. You were created to blossom. You were created for dominion. It wasn't just the man that was created for dominion. You were created for dominion too. You were created for something bigger than you. And the moment you stop living in the comfort of the smallness of who you are and you start living for something bigger than you, the moment you will find something crack on the inside of you that has been hiding for days. So it might not take one day, it might not take 2 days. It might, take you to join programs like Becoming Her program. It might take you to, do so much work, but it is there waiting to be cracked open. That first flicker, that first leaf, when you plant a seed and then the leaf now shows, that's not the full growth of the leaf. It's just a sign of life. I'm waiting for you for that sign of life. Then it becomes a tree, it becomes an ocean, it starts to give life. You see, when you now become a full tree and then birds start to come and perch, everybody, there's shade. You're providing shade to the other things around you. People can come under your shade and find succor. Maybe that's what you are, but you're hiding, not wanting to bury that seed. Maybe this is your call to rise. Maybe the birds that are looking for your shade have not found your shade because you are still hiding. Men are looking for shade when the weather is so hot, like my sister who is all the way from the desert. If you find a tree, you can imagine how soothing that will be. And are you going to be that tree that will rise and provide shade? Is that going to be your decision today? Or are you just going to stay buried and hidden? Unmute yourself. You have the power to unmute yourself. When you're on a Zoom call and sometimes you come into a Zoom call, you don't realize that, oh, you're muted, especially if it's a one-to-one. And then the host now says unmute yourself. Or you're in a Zoom call, there are lots of people, and then they want you to give your own opinion. They say unmute yourself. There's a button there. There's an unmute button there. Unmute yourself. I don't know if anyone has any questions or any sorry, I have one more slide before I take in questions. What are the practical tools to unmute yourself? Boundaries. See boundaries as self-respect. So it's not a question of you're being unkind. You respect yourself enough to put boundaries for yourself. You respect yourself enough to put boundaries around yourself. That's how much you respect yourself. So it's self-respect, self-preservation. You do your morning rituals. So sometimes when people say, oh, I have been doing my morning rituals, faithfully for years now. And while I understand that, kids come into the picture, and then sometimes, especially when they are toddlers and their babies, can be hard. But when you actually realize that these things are important for your own mental health and for your own emotional well-being and for your own spiritual well-being and for your own physical well-being, you will do everything it takes to keep your morning rituals. It might be journaling, it might be reading from the holy book, whichever one you believe in. It might be reading a book, 15 minutes. I'm not asking you to do, maybe when you were single, you used to do 3 hours, 4 hours. Yes, it's okay. But there's also no hard and fast rule to it that says that, okay, now that you have children, you can, something that just, it's you're feeding your spirit, your soul, and your body. And your body, by that I mean exercises. You keep your rituals. You keep your rituals. You do the things that you need to do. Excuses will not give results, and that's the truth. You go years without feeling your own soul, feeling your own body, feeling your own self. And then you ask yourself, then that's when the resentment builds up and you say, oh, again, and gosh, my mom used to, tell me things like, I carried you for 9 months. Honestly speaking, I didn't ask you to. Sorry to say this. But that's when the resentment comes and then you take it out on the children. Have a joy list. Journal if you can't write, journal your voice. Write down the things that give you joy. Say, in this month, if I'm going to do one, even means hanging out with my friends, hanging out with my friend, like I said, but you are mindful of the friends also. Hanging out, I'm going to do something that will bring me joy. I'm going to learn to play the guitar because it brings me joy. I'm going to learn to, do something for me because it brings me joy. You're not being selfish. You can't serve from an empty vessel. You can't serve from an empty can. You can't serve from an empty soul. The more you feel your soul and the more joyful you are, you're actually watering the plants that are around you. You're a source of inspiration. To be honest, nobody really wants to be like a melancholy, moody person. The day I realized that I had to start changing my disposition. Nobody really wants. Oh, every time you come around me, I'm moaning. I'll start avoiding you now. I'll start avoiding you. What are your joy lists? And saying no with the whole heart. We said that before. Saying no with the whole heart. No. When I used to stay with my sister, when she had her kids, I used to stay with her, and then when her children want something and she says no, she says no, and then she asks them, what does no mean? And then the response is no means no. It doesn't have further information. No means no, period. It's the end, full stop. Protect your energy at all costs. So we're going to, right now, I've mentioned during the program or during the webinar that, being in the right community, being in the right space is very important for you. And I have a 5-week launch that is coming up June 1st. And for the founders offer, early bird price, I have put it at £35 or 49,000 naira. It's a becoming her 5-week rediscovery journey. Imagine being able to wake up with your own joy list. Imagine being able to hear this, in an intimate community of women, sharing your struggles, sharing your fears. Imagine being able to unmute yourself, to find your voice and your energy. Imagine being able to walk into your power and your purpose. Because like I said, something that you have been for the last 30, 40, I don't know how old you are, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever age you are in, it's not that straightforward to just wake up. Your brain will fight you. There's a battle for your mind. So being in the right community is a no-brainer. Being in the right place is a no-brainer. It's going to be a safe, guided space for women to reconnect with their voice, reignite their self-worth, reclaim their joy. I don't know what joy looks like to you, but I know that when you find joy, you will find joy. You will find it, you will know there's a crack that opens, there's a bubbling that happens inside your mind. There's a constant demeanor that you carry that shows that, oh, this person is alive. Those people that you meet, you're wondering, is this person, dead, or, just, there's no, it's just, dragging, no, they don't excite. That's not the life we want. It's going to be practical, supportive, transformational. We're going to have daily thought-provoking prompts, weekly life coaching sessions, a WhatsApp support group, a rediscovery workbook, and accountability and connection. And if you register today, you're going to get a one-to-one. For those who have registered, you're going to get a 30-minute one-to-one discovery call with me. And we will sit down and we will talk about what it is you know what you can just that session is just for you. It's going to be just for you. That's the offer for today, and for those who have joined so far. I don't want you to pass up this over, because in the next 1 week we are going to be raising our raising our price from 35 to 45 and from 49 to 55. It's not, it's just an investment that you're making into your own self. You're building, you're growing, you're investing into your own growth. Um my final words to you today will be, your children don't need a perfect mother. They need a woman who's alive in every way. Even you need a woman who's alive by yourself, for yourself. There's no there's no joy in being going through the motion of life. There's no joy in it. There's no joy in going through the motion of life. There's no joy. There's no joy in living half-heartedly. You were not created for half-hearted living. You are the foundation of your home, and let that foundation be strong, joyful, and whole. Rediscover yourself for them and for you. Think about it. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you would like to say? If you have any questions, let me know, and I'm happy to answer your questions in the next 5 minutes. And we'll be off for today till next week, Friday. So, by the way, these webinars will be running every Friday at 12 noon, except duty calls, like if I have to go to my children's school. But by God's grace, Fridays, I've kept Fridays for my free webinars, and I'm happy to serve every woman here on this group and on this call. Any questions? So thank you so much for joining me. I can't see any questions. I can't see anyone saying anything. Thank you, Deyo. Thank you, Joy. Your joy is full. Thank you, Loveth. Thank you, Bumi. Thank you, Ngozi. Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so honored to have all you wonderful women here. And I am very sure and I'm very persuaded that the more women arise, the more we push this movement, the more we push this narrative, our nation will move forward, because we're actually a powerhouse. We're a backbone. We're a backbone. You can't undermine the power of a woman. Maybe that's, in fact, I'm going to give a webinar on that very soon. You can't undermine the power of a woman. We're very strong, and we are very, very much needed in our communities, in our homes, even to ourselves. We are needed. We are needed. Thank you so much for joining me, and do have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you.